Hey, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. So let's get open for business here and let's wake up the football guys here. Wake up. Wake up, guys. All right, so it is Saturday morning. Sorry, I'm a little late this morning. Had to take care of some business. You know, I'm not just the guy you see here on YouTube. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a businessman, and I'm an idiot. All of these things, and it takes time to do all of them. So I'm working as hard as I can to get everything done as much as possible. So I'm late getting this started today. Sometimes, like I said, I'm Joe the fan here. Joe the fan, just like everybody else that loves doing YouTube and doing stuff and talking about the Cowboys. But I'm no expert, to say the least. But it's funny because sometimes things that I've touched on and talked about come back around, and others will say, hey, this is what's going on. And it kind of gives you some validation that, hey, maybe at least we can get a few things right. And I pointed out yesterday, and I pointed this out last year as well. One of the problems with the Cowboys team was when you look at special teams, and I know what we get is people will say, "Well, Dak Prescott, he's garbage." It's the reason why he has to have so many comeback victories is because he gets into bad position because of not doing stuff that he should be doing earlier in the game and things. That's possible, but when you get Zeke Elliott that fumbles, or Dak fumbles, or Tony Pollard fumbles, or you have special team errors, it really makes it more difficult. And a lot of times you can look at the box scores and things like that. But we had at JMU, our coach, Joe Przicki, used to talk about hidden yards. And hidden yards is one of those things that they don't really talk about, and most people don't think about, but they're key in dealing with the game. So you understand, generally speaking, if you get turnovers, you're going to get the ball at an advantage because it's usually going to be a shorter field. You're going to surprise the defense because they're not expecting to be on the field. Turnovers, like anyone, is one that they talk about, of course, that says if you get more turnovers, unless you're the Atlanta Falcons, you will succeed more often than not. Now, here's the thing for the Dallas Cowboys. This is a problem that happened last year. I pointed this out. That was crazy. When you think about the Rams game, we had early on in that game two drives of like 90, I think 93 yards and 97 yards. In the NFL, it's hard to go 97 yards for a score. And one of the things that happened to the Dallas Cowboys, and this is a great article that somebody tagged me with from Cowboys Wire on Twitter. It's very interesting how field position has been an issue even worse this year than last year. So you understand this. I think about the Minnesota Viking game. I think the Cowboys' starting field position was inside the 20 on average. And I think Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, their average field starting was like 37 or 38. If you have to go 20 more yards every single drive than your competition, chances are you're going to get a penalty, a turnover, a drop pass, not get a first down. The odds against you being successful are worsened. In this article, here's what's crazy. Per Pro Football Insiders, this is the second year in a row that the Cowboys have ranked number 30th in the league in terms of where their drives begin. On average, the Dallas offense starts the ball on the 22.97 yard line. Last year, it was 26.19. So we've actually gotten 3 point some yards further to go this year than last year. There's only two teams that are having worse field position starting out than the Dallas Cowboys right now in the NFL. Last year, which is better, but the only team, listen, the only team that have started more drives inside their own 20-yard line are the Arizona Cardinals. That's not a recipe to win. And the cure for this, of course, is better special teams, we can't fumble the ball on the 1 yard line. We can't fumble the ball on the 1 yard line. And we've got to get better returns, which means it's better blocking and less penalties. That's special teams work. Those have a direct impact on what your offense does. And you can say, oh, stop blaming people. Listen, stop being that guy, that idiot that doesn't understand football. Stop believing that, oh, well, Dak's got a whole lot of yards, but they're empty yards and it doesn't mean anything. Yet guys that are having less yards are successful. Why? Because they're getting the ball in advantageous positions. Because their defense is stopping people. When you have a defense that literally is 30 plus in every category, it's not good. And it has a direct correlation because, I was watching Speak for Yourself, Wiley and Acho, we're having a discussion about Dak Prescott, and he said that, the funny thing is last year you take Dak Prescott and Jameis Winston and Jared Goff, all of the top passing quarterbacks last year, that they didn't make the playoffs, which is true. And that's because your team has to go further down the field to get scores, or you're behind because the defense can't keep up and you're in a track meet situation, which means you're going to pass more. If you have got a lead, you're going to run the ball more in the second half unless you're Jason Garrett-led. You're going to try and slow down the pace. You're not going to try and score real quick to give the other team opportunities. So it is one of those, because of this happens. So, and you look at the Cowboys being behind against the Falcons and the Seattle, that they have to pass more. You've become more one-dimensional, but they're being successful at what they're doing. The reality is if we do not change getting turnovers and taking the turnovers and getting better field position, it's going to be real difficult to win against better teams. If you can get takeaways, and this is the thing that people don't seem to understand. Everybody looks at Tom Brady and said he's the GOAT, the greatest quarterback of all time and everything else. And I'm not saying that Tom Brady isn't really good. But one of the things that's lost in that is how really good the Bill Belichick's defenses have been. Understand, Russell Wilson is playing out of his mind right now. He's throwing touchdowns, like crazy. He's got 14 touchdown passes. Let me say this again. 14 touchdown passes in the first 3 weeks of the season. When they were winning Super Bowls, I think he had 22 or 23. But they had the number one ranked defense that did what? Took the ball away, and were number one in that as well. And those things, I hate to tell you, make a difference. Now, we've got the Cleveland Browns coming up tomorrow. Big game for us. The interesting thing is the Dallas Cowboys of 40, give you some crazy statistics, of touchdown passes over 40 yards. You got Russell Wilson with 2. You got Pat Mahomes with 2. You got Dak Prescott with 3. Of big plays over 10 yards, I believe the Dallas Cowboys are number 1 in that. On the flip side, because here's what they're selling to you, is that the Cleveland Browns have given up the fewest 10-plus yard plays, which is true. I'm not disputing that. But understand, in the 3 games that they played Baltimore, which is really good. Baltimore, they lost 35-6. But their other 2 games were against Cincinnati and Washington. And do we look at those 2 teams as very explosive and being able to make a lot of plays more than 10 yards? I don't think so. So that's one of those ones that they're trying to scare you by the statistics, that you have to look and say, what was the competition? Now, don't get me wrong. Myles Garrett is a beast, and the Cowboys will have their hands full with him. Claiborne is going to be out for them, which, you'll remember that train wreck we had when he was with the Atlanta Falcons and literally got paid off of 1 game. But the Cowboys need to start turning some of these things around. Their defense needs to start beginning to make plays. We need not only Alden Smith, we need, I would love to be able to come in here and instead of having to say negative stuff about D-Law, I would love to come in here and say, D-Law is back. He got a couple of sacks. I would love to say that my defense played a good game. I would love to talk about turnovers that my defense got. And I'm hoping that going against Baker Mayfield, that the Cowboys can do that. If not, we got some real problems, y'all. All right, y'all. I will be back in a bit. Get this thing up here and out. I've got some work to do in the man cave down here and getting ready for tomorrow, getting set up for our games. We'll be live streaming at 1 o'clock. Well, we'll probably start a little bit earlier than that. We'll be live streaming, of course, the Cowboys game, also following the Washington game. We'll watch the New York stinking Giants get their ass handed to them. And, of course, you know, they're already killing Jason Garrett for his offensive play calling. And then, of course, the Sunday night massacre, we'll be watching the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Mark Holmes, and I appreciate you being here. I'll see you soon.